LSU Odyssey live early morning edition. How's it going, everybody? How's it going? The return of wide receiver U. You know, LSU has been disappointing at the receiver position the last 2 years, and everything was unbelievable in 2023 with Malik and Brian going off record-breaking seasons. Mason Taylor at tight end. You had some pieces there. Then 2022, 2021, Kayshon Boutte kind of going off for here and there. Disappointing in 2022, but 9 touchdowns in only 6 games before the injury that knocked him out. You had some talent at receiver, but you haven't really had an incredible group of collection of receivers that not only fit the bill talent-wise of the moniker of wide receiver U, but also have been developed and you took advantage of their talents correctly in the offense. I mean, last year, I think even, people can talk shit about last year's receiving core, but I think guys like Aaron Anderson, Berrien Brown, Xavier Thomas would actually be incredible in a Lane Kiffin offense. I think that's just how good the offense is and how tailored it would be for guys like that. Burners over the middle, yards after catch guys. And that's why it's very important what we're going to talk about with the return of wide receiver U and why 2026 wide receivers, the 2026 wide receivers, should be the elite return of wide receiver U after what feels like a long time of, 2022. You look at that room. You look at the names in that room, 2021, 2022. You look at the names in that room. You have, Kayshon Boutte, who's now come good in the NFL, was a record holder for single game receiving yards in SEC history with 308 yards as a freshman with a messed up ankle in the rain. Against Kiffin's Ole Miss as well, actually, in that game. You had on that roster, in that receiving room, you had Kayshon, Malik, who's an all-SEC freshman, Brian Thomas Jr., so there's two first-round picks right there, Jack Besh, who's a second-round pick, and then Chris Hilton Jr., who didn't really come good, but I think I don't know what the hell was going on with Cortez Hankton, just not utilizing him, thinking he could only just go for downfield shots, when really you could have used him to work the middle of the field a lot more than you did. Especially with Nussmeier not being able to throw it downfield, you could have at least worked the middle of the field. They didn't. The receiving core the last few years, much to be desired. Especially when you had a quarterback like Nussmeier, and they put up a lot of yards in 2024. You look at the numbers, they put up a lot of yards. It feels empty. It felt empty because the big plays were few and far between. The explosive plays were few and far between, I should say. Not just big plays, but like explosive, high impact. Not just go for 20 yards and kind of get the drive going, but like actually break the back of the defense, score a touchdown on a big play, something like that. It was very rare. It was very rare. A lot of stat padding and stuff like that for those offenses, but not a lot of meat on the bone. And I think in the Lane Kiffin offense, with the illustrious list of talents that this wide receiver core is centered around, I mean, and it could be a few different guys who kind of take the mantle. But I have high hopes for what this offense can do with this receiving core, because you have so many different profiles here. And in comparison to past years, there's a bit more height going on here with this receiving core. So they're taller. There's an upgrade there in the height department. They're taller. There's an upgrade in the speed department, even though, Legion of Zoom or whatever, okay. But these guys make the speed count on the field with yards after catch and big time plays. And then their averages, what they're averaging per catch, over 14 yards per catch for these guys, ridiculous. And some could say, well, some of them have a lack of experience and only a couple catches, or Winnie Watkins, only a freshman. Some of these things you could say make up for that statistic. But all in all, adding everything in totality together, I think it comes good when you look at the numbers of guys like a Jace Brown or a Jackson Harris, guys who did have 700+ yard seasons on their resume. Eugene Wilson, another guy who has had injury woes, but if utilized correctly, good Lord, he could go off. So you've got these varying profiles. You've got speedsters, you've got burners, you've got downfield threats. And all of these guys, and not to mention Tradez Green as well, on top of all of these transfer receivers you brought in. You got Tradez Green as well, that hybrid tight end receiver role, who, let's face it, basically going to be used as a receiver. We know that Kiffin more likes the inline traditional tight end setup for his tight ends. I could see him using Tradez there in the stance or whatever, and then motioning him out, something like that. But I think he will be used more as a receiver. And so you can even add Tradez Green, 6'7", 11 red zone touchdown catches in 2 seasons at LSU. 11, all 11 of his touchdown catches coming in the red zone. And man, he should have more, because we should have thrown it to him. Especially with Nussmeier being hurt. And you get down there to the red zone, he can barely put the ball, 10 yards. But you get down there in the red zone, don't do these telegraphed runs. Just throw it up and trade as Green. It was so high percentage. So I just cannot wait to see what this offense can do with this receiving core. When you're talking about weapons like even a guy like Tradez Green, who we were almost about to be remiss to forget because of the tight end moniker, but he's very much a receiver as well. But you've got Trey Wilson, Eugene Wilson, the third out of Florida. This is a guy who has loads of experience. He has, I'm going to use a name that has some Florida vibes. And I don't want people to be annoyed by this and be pissed off that I'm using this, but Percy Harvin. Eugene Trey Wilson III has some Percy Harvin qualities to him. Now, you've seen what Lane Kiffin can do with weapons that don't have anywhere near the pedigree or athleticism of even guys like this. You've seen what Kiffin can do with grade A, top shelf, legendary, iconic athletes. A Reggie Bush, even a Matt Leinart. I wouldn't call him an athlete, but more of just a great quarterback. But the list goes on of guys. Even like a Quinshawn Judkins, who had like a 20 touchdown season when he was with Kiffin. So, Kawan Lacey, of course, last year at running back. So Trey Harris, Louisiana native, who was just fed the ball religiously by Lane Kiffin. Um, so you have all of these weapons in the aerial game. We talked about Sam Levitt over the last few shows. Really deep dive into what Sam Levitt can provide for you for this offense. Hopefully, gets fully healthy. But I was also suggesting LSU may be throwing the football a lot more in those first few weeks to help him with his recovery. Make sure he's like not just like fit, his injury free, his injury feels okay. But then there's a difference between getting like football ready, taking a few physical hits, and being able to get through that with no issues. And that's something we need to really make sure we're okay with Sam Levitt going through that stretch. So I want to protect him, and you've got the receiving core to do that. Use the short passing game, use the over the middle game, dink and dunk, but also take these downfield shots. LSU have a potential high octane aerial game coming into 2026. And, you go through the names. You go through the names. Of course, we just went through Trey Wilson, man. And this is Trey Wilson's a former 5-star, by the way. A lot of 5-star, powerhouse quality on this roster that is just not being discussed. But he's a former 5-star as well. Then Jace Brown, who's at K-State, he has just under 2,000 career yards and, absolute freak. He showed a photo that he was going to wear the number 1 on roster. So he's going to be inheriting that number 1 from Aaron Anderson. And then you got Corey Barber as well as this 5-star prospect, this early enrollee, the number 2 receiver in the entire class. That was out of nowhere. That was news, I believe, broken by Shea Dixon, On 3, those guys who broke that news about Corey Barber. And, I mean, you're just loading up on the talent. And then we're not even talking about a guy who I like a lot big time is Jabari Mack. Jabari Mack is an absolute freak. And I know he's coming in as a freshman. We also got Winnie Watkins going into his sophomore year after a strong, freshman season at Ole Miss contenders. But Jabari Mack coming into his freshman year, I don't want to lose this guy to a transfer after a year of like not using him or whatever. Get him involved somehow, because there's something about Jabari Mack that makes me feel like this is a kid who could really, really be something special. A Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase type of freak, a Jarvis Landry type of character. Jabari Mack is a very impressive young man. The conversations that I've been able to have with him, while limited, very illuminating. No, few word answers or just kind of yes sir, type of stuff, but really engaged, really open about things, and someone who we're going to try and get on the show here. We desperately tried to get him on the show. He said, "Oh, when the season ends," and then by the time we remembered, oh yeah, let's get Jabari Mack on the show, he was officially an LSU Tiger, so we have to go through, get official permission from Michael Bonnet and Lane Kiffin to get the clearance and okay on those type of interviews. So we'll look into that and try and get that done. But Jabari Mack is a player that going under the radar, freshman, not going to be, the number 1 guy people are going to talk about. But I'm going to tell you, he's going to pop during practices. He's going to show what he can do, and really shine during these practices upcoming, where he might beat some people out and he might steal some snaps from some of these transfers. I'm really, I would be warning if I'm George McDonald, the new receiving coach. I'm warning my guys, my upperclassmen, like, hey, Jabari Mack, Corey Barber, these guys could take snaps from you. Don't be just like sitting and chilling back, like, yeah, we got this because we're the new incoming transfers. We've got veteran experience. I'm Trey Wilson. I'm Chase Brown. We're going to be good here. It's like, hey, Kiffin is going to feed and he's going to play the guys who are the best players out there, bar none. Politics will not, like we've seen it with Kiffin, his track record, and that might change, but it would be a huge shock if it changed. He's always played the best players, regardless of age. He's always fed who he's felt were the best players. Maybe he got those, some decisions wrong of who to feed or whatever. I don't usually think so. Usually, Kiffin has gotten those right because he knows who's his best players. His evaluations are something that I feel like has a strong track record. And that's why I was so excited about what we did in the portal. I shouldn't say we because I didn't do anything about it, but what Kiffin, I was just meaning it we as in LSU, but what Kiffin did in the portal, I mean, to me, that signified not only like, okay, you went out and was able to get the big talents. You were able to go out and throw around all this money that no one thought LSU had. You were able to go out and really set down a marker. But not only that, you proved you guys had strong evaluation. Charlie Weiss, Billy Glasscock, the GM, specifically involved like crazy throughout that whole process. And so you were able to get some big time gems in the rough. And the receiving core is where I think you did, and running back as well, but the receiving core is where I think they did the most damage because obviously they lost a ton of receivers in the portal, just like the offensive line had to like completely retool. But some of these guys that they brought in, Trey Brown from Old Dominion, 6'2", 180, but this guy averaged over 20 yards per catch in 2025, guys. That's ridiculous. That's like almost Jamar Chase numbers. Jamar in 2019 averaged, I think it's 21.3, something like that. I remember being obsessed with that stat, so I think it is 21.3. But I mean, just insane, right? Well, Trey Brown, who we've listed like seventh here, is a dude who can supply that for you. And then of course Jackson Harris, who's the leading producer incoming into this receiving room with 963 yards last year, just barely under 1,000 yards, 12 touchdown catches for Hawaii last season. And Harris, I mean, this is an interesting cat, Jackson Harris. I swear, yes, he was the first. Jackson Harris was the first to commit to LSU as a part of this class. Oh, that's a daughtery thing, not. What happened to our Jackson Harris thing? We're gonna slyly, smoothly go right into the Jackson Harris slide. Damn it! But Jackson Harris, a guy who isn't even getting any headlines. I mean, from some people, he's getting those, of course, but a lot of people don't know much about this team, kind of just waiting and seeing. But Jackson Harris, 1,000-yard season, basically, 12 touchdowns, freakish stuff, freakish stuff. So you have a receiving core that is potentially filled to the brim with talents, various differing profiles. The home run hitting, you know, totem madness. That didn't really sound like anything good. You've got the home run hitting monolithic brilliance of Trey Brown going for 20 plus yards per catch. You got Jackson Harris, who strong, steady possession receiver, basically 1,000-yard season for Hawaii last year. Trey Wilson, who can be that kind of speedy burner. You can use him in multiple different ways in the backfield, across the formation, these shuttle screens, these jet sweeps. You can do all sorts of stuff with this guy, and he could be absolutely top tier. Jace Brown, someone who you need to just line this dude up and just throw a slant. Just bullet it right to him. Just snap it, turn, and throw it right into his chest, right into the kind of aim for his forearms, lead him inside, and watch him go for like 7 yards at a minimum. Even if the dude is right on him, sticky coverage. The guy's like Stingley. He's right on him, even then, Jace Brown will catch that thing and go for 7 yards. And I think what you've seen from Kiffin in the past, what you've seen from the film, at least what I've seen from the film from all these receivers, and I think if you guys, those who are diehard enough, who watch the film like I do, have seen these receivers be at their most dynamic when they're catching the football across the middle of the field, being led inside, these mesh concepts, these crossing routes, these slants, these inside routes over the middle plays, getting them in space. It's really what could set this offense to literally being in terminal velocity mode. Because you've got receivers destroying you left, right, and center, okay? In all sorts of shapes and ways. Guys that are towering over you. Guys that are burning you after the catch. And then you've got a steady supply, a heavy dose of differing profiles at running back that we're going to get into as well that really complement each other. We're going to be getting into the running backs in the next video. As you've seen, we've been doing the position group focus. We've gone through the quarterbacks. Now we've gone to the receivers. You've got so many different profiles. You've got burners. You got speedsters, towering infernos, aerial assassins. It's more eclectic than Led Zeppelin 3, what you have in your receiving core. It is a bevy of talents, of guys who you've got veterans, you've got young guys, you've got upperclassmen who haven't quite hit that moment yet, but they've got a few years of eligibility still to work with. You've got depth. You've got possession guys who are going to move the chains and take the tough hits. You've got finesse. You've got speed, athleticism. You got moves and missed tackles forced after the catch. Guys who can make you miss, not just in space, but also in traffic. And what I like about this receiving core the most, I think, is the common thread I've seen is all of these guys are hard nosed as hell, can take nasty hits and keep going, can take brutal hits and keep going after the catch. Almost to a T, every single one of these guys are like, I'm not going to be like Torrey Holt or Isaac Bruce in the 99 Rams, or maybe not the 99 team, but actually in 2001, 2000, when they're established already. Those Rams receivers, Bruce, Torrey Holt, Hakeem, they would catch the football, and then the second they're about to get tackled, they just go down. Right? Remember that stuff? Because they were so concerned with getting hurt, and they knew they could just dominate you, that they would just preserve themselves by going down. Get the ball, then go down. These guys, for better or for worse, they're not doing that. They play the game with some sack. All right? And I like it. Some swag, some sack, some hard-nosed determination to get extra yards. And that's why all of these guys are in the teens as far as average per catch. And some say, oh, the lack of experience. Well, you can't really say that. Lack of catches, lack of experience when you're talking about guys like Trey Brown, when you're talking about guys like Trey Wilson, when you're talking about guys like Jace Brown, Jackson Harris, specifically the final two. You can't say that. But then you've also got these young guys, Corey Barber, Jabari Mack. I mean, what a duo of freshman receiving talents. If you haven't watched Jabari Mack footage, he might not be a 5-star. I'm not sure if he's a 5-star or not. I don't think he is a 5-star. I think he was only rated a 4-star, which is a criminal act, by the way. A criminal act. If you haven't watched Jabari Mack film, whether you're a film buff or not, whether you don't care, you're just kind of into keeping up to date with your Tigers, and then you'll watch how these guys develop, maybe in a few pieces of film over fall camp or whatever. I'm pushing you. I am like trying to persuade you. Please watch Jabari Mack film, because it is absolutely just beautiful. It is poetry in stunning suspended animation. And there's something about the way he plays the game that is hard-nosed and finesse at the same time. You've got the beauty of the finesse and the hard as nails, fight for extra yards type of mentality that make you really, hopeful and excited for the future of this kid. And he's, he's what, 7th or 8th on the depth chart officially going into spring with all the guys you got, and he could be. I would not be shocked if Jabari Mack was a day one starter. He's that good. Will that happen? Probably not. Kiffin will probably make him earn his keep and stuff like that, and give some seniority. But if Mack is better than all the other guys, if he's in the top 3, top 4, he will be playing. Make no mistake about that. Absolutely affirmative. You can say that for a fact. And I know we've singled him out a bunch here, but I feel like it's because with Jabari Mack, I feel like we haven't talked about him enough on our channel. As much as we've thought about him, we've thought about his play. We've written about his play. We've talked about him like maybe 4 or 5 different shows, and we've sung his praises. We've said, "Oh my God, he's so good." We've gone on those tangents. We've talked about stats, stuff like that. But I feel like we haven't really done just the real justice that the kid deserves. And so we're going to get a profile written on him quickly. There was a holdup with the defensive tackle profile that we're doing because I wanted to get a few quotes. So I have to get those quotes cleared and make sure that I can get permission for those quotes first. It would suck if we couldn't do the quotes because then the profile, to me, would feel like it was half done, half incomplete without those quotes. But it will be what it will be. We'll see what we can do. Hopefully, we can get permission from there. But yeah, Jabari Mack deserves his own profile from LSUOdyssey.com, like ASAP. Every Tiger does. It's really just how many can we do, and I'm shocked that we've been able to get to as many as we have, considering just how crazy things have been lately. I've opened up to you guys and kind of told you our schedule from like the last life as we knew it from like the last 6 years kind of flipped upside down like right after my birthday. It was like I remember it was like my birthday and things were like really cool and it was all good and all this stuff, and then it just like everything went to shit. Things with my job went weird where I started having to work the craziest of shifts, and there was right now I'm working a crazy shift. Right now I'm working overnight, driving in the rain, talking to you guys, and there's a beauty in that struggle. There's a beauty in the fight. There's a beauty in the upward push because we all just want a better life, and so we're just kind of pushing for it as hard as we can, even in the roughest of moments. And I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. And so I just looking at this receiving corps. George McDonald, receiving coach, Lane Kiffin's brought in from Ole Miss. And you saw what he's done with Kiffin's receivers over the last few years at Ole Miss. And it's not like, he's had a Malik Neighbors or a Brian Thomas Jr. or whatever. But it's not like there's been scruffs. Okay. They've produced some gems there. George McDonald at LSU as the receivers coach, we haven't seen what he can do yet. We don't know. We don't know if he'll get the rotations right. Cortez Hankton came to LSU with a lot of love, promise, and riding the wave of a national title ring with Georgia. And instead, we kind of saw him hide behind the talents of Malik and Brian for a few years. And then once he was exposed and kind of, you need to provide some instincts here with your rotation, some ingenuity, maybe some innovation. You need to figure out a way to get your guys the football. You're not just the receiver coach, you're the passing game coordinator too. And he completely failed when you're talking about that. When you're talking about guys like Aaron Anderson, who had to fight for every damn yard he got when he was being fed on the worst possible routes for his skill set. I mean, some of the routes they ran him, it was like, what are you doing? It's like running a fade with Warwick Dunn. Like, what on earth are you doing? Like, oh my God, it just makes no sense. But okay, I'm loving though what this receiving core could be. I'm loving just the visions in my head of how this passing game could be. Whereas the last few years, you were left wanting. Even with a quarterback like Nussmeier, who could put up yards after yard after yard, you were cheated out of that in year one with Nussmeier because of terrible play calling and some poor receiving performances, some guys who just were not good enough. And then in year two, of course, the Nussmeier injury cheated you out of that, plus the poor play calling, plus some poor performances as well. This feels different. It feels like even if George McDonald doesn't completely deliver, even if he isn't, the greatest receiving coach in the known universe, it feels like he knows what Kiffin and Charlie Weiss want from their passing game, from their receiving core, and he's able to deliver that. And so I'm intrigued. I'm very excited to meet Coach McDonald, see what really his plan is for the receiving core, what his philosophy is. Because as much as you can see on the field, kind of what the philosophy is, I love to kind of sit and just kind of talk shop with the coaches and hear them explain themselves in a way, like hear them explain their, this is why I believe in, the 3-4 over the 4-3, whatever it is. Like, this is why I believe in only 2 linebackers over 3 linebacker sets, or this is why we use a nickel, or what, over a third linebacker, whatever it is. Usually those things are dictated by matchups, of course, or certain play sets, formations, defense trying to match it up with personnel. Oh God, they got double slots. Somebody's coming out of the game. You're putting in an extra nickel, stuff like that. I'm very excited for what this offense could be. When you're talking about a dual threat quarterback like Sam Levitt and how he could punish defenses. And then we're going to get into that hardy running back room in our next episode of LSU Odyssey Live at Precision Group Focus. And then you got this receiving core. Trades Green, tight end / receiver, whatever you want to say. We'll just call him a pass catcher. He's a big time, protagonist of the Tigers' passing game. Trey Wilson, Trey Brown, Jace Brown, Jackson Harris, Jabari Mack, Corey Barber. We've written a lot of profiles on some of these guys. We've already got a profile on, I think, maybe 4 or 5 of these receivers. So definitely check that out on LSUODYSSEY.com. You just go into the content section and kind of just scroll down the menu, and it will say LSU 2026, LSU 2025, all the way down to, I think it's LSU 2018 is like the last season that we've got on record. But go to LSU 2026, and it will have all the profiles, and it will be pretty damn easy to navigate. And that's the thing. We are going to spend hell or high water next thing to revamp the site, to make it easier for all of you, to make it a better experience for everybody. That's kind of the next move, the next investment project for LSUODYSSEY.com, is to really make the site better and hopefully we can secure some type of funding to make that happen. There's some interest in helping us from a few different sectors, a few different people. There's a few different people who have some serious coinage who are very inspired by our kind of underdog story, are kind of bothered by what happened with certain certain breaking news stories, and then a few of these people didn't even like us and thought we were full of shit, but because they were so gaslighted. But then they would see later tweets by other people or us kind of saying, like, here's the receipts. They were like persuaded to be like, whoa, holy crap, this dude, there's something to this dude here. This guy might have been right. And I think because of that, maybe it's impressed a few people. I'm not sure, but they seem to be like, hey, let's maybe think of supporting this venture of yours. So that would be very cool if that could happen. Um, I don't know what the future holds. Honestly, I just hope I get to cover LSU for you guys and um, be able to provide for my family as best as I can, and be a good person as much as I can. And that's one thing I need to finish the show addressing. Um, and I shouldn't apologize for this. I really shouldn't, because the person I'm apologizing to is someone who I know doesn't like me, or at least that it seems, or at least they've been twisted into to not, or whatever. There's been back and forths that they maybe took the wrong way, or maybe they just didn't like me to begin with. Either way, uh, I they I was wanting to make a point with a tweet again, saying like, we broke this story, and nobody, everyone shit on us at the time. They thought it was wrong, but then no one gives us credit or apologizes for saying some really terrible things in front of large groups of people. you know and I was like, oh, delete that, because you're kind of, I didn't really think about, oh, there's that one person in there that kind of makes them look bad, because I thought it was about like the four people that I put photos of, because there's one from like Tiger Droppings, one from this place, one from that place, one from that place, of people kind of making fun of our initial reports of one of the stories that we broke way early. And this person, I'm sure, doesn't really like us much. Um, but I felt bad kind of clowning them, actually, because it was like, you know what? You're just not that guy. You're just not that petty. Maybe the other side of the coin is petty enough to come at you and try and make you look bad in front of thousands, if not millions of people. Like, maybe that's what gets them off. Okay. But that's not what I've ever been about. And that's what have started to do, as some type of like way to almost defend what we have done, in a way of like, hey, screw you. You can't take this away from, that type of stuff. And I want to get away from that big time. I don't think it serves anybody. I don't think it helps anybody. It doesn't make me feel better about myself. Just, tearing down somebody else. And you know what? Let them, as Lane Kiffin said, let them. We have chosen from this point forward to just let them. Like, people can say whatever they want at this point about us, our work. They can try and twist anything. We will just go about our business trying to produce the best stuff that we possibly can at the highest level we possibly can. Um, and we're gonna do it trying to be the best person we possibly can. And I feel like yeah, I was petty against Matthew Bruni with his like he made fun of me with some post and I was like I put that photo in a post to kind of include him with the other people who clowned us. And someone, you know, of course, tagged him in it and was like, "You're a clown," and kind of started going at him, attacking him for that. And that's what made me go, "Okay, you know, I didn't intend for that. I was hoping people would go, "Oh, cool, you broke." Okay, oh wow, that's kind of funny. Like how this, you know, the inside of baseball part of breaking news and journalism. Instead, it was, oh, let's attack that person too, and I hate that, and I hate that I played a role in that. And so, even though this person will probably never apologize to me for what they've said about us or any of that type of stuff, I don't care. I'll apologize to them. I don't want to be petty. Um, I lay my weapons down with all of that petty bullshit, and people can say whatever they want about us. I don't care. I enjoy it. I I felt like I had to defend ourselves at every turn, and now I don't really feel the need. Our work has spoken for itself. Whether we have two followers, 2,000 or 40,000, um, people understand what we're about and what we've been doing for years now, and that's already well established. And I don't need to feel any more self doubt or any more defense mechanisms or any of that type of stuff which will prove or what we've done or that type of thing. Um, and so from now on, lay the weapons down and I just let them. If people are going to talk shit, let them. If people are going to say like, let them. That means you're doing something good. You're living rent free in people's heads, you know, if that's the case. But anyway, that was the return of wide receiver U. LSU have an electric, explosive receiving room with potentially a lot of firepower, a lot of potential for high octane playmaking downfield across the middle, you know, yards after catch playmaking abilities here. And Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss Jr., George McDonald, the receivers coach, if that axis can figure it out as far as the way, you know, who's their best personnel out of a loaded room now. What is a loaded room now? And oh, talent from first guy to eighth. You don't really know who's going to be there at the very end. You can take a wild guess on a few of them. Maybe you're going to get one or two correct, but I think three or four might be completely way off from what any of us expect, such as the nature of iron sharpening iron in a true fashion, which is what I think you'll see this offseason with this receiving core. And that's what's going to be so fun to watch. This DB group, this secondary, going up against this receiving core in spring, in fall camp. I hope we can be there for every minute of it. I don't care if it's in 110 freaking degrees. We'll be there in our suit jackets still anyway, sweating it out and taking notes on every damn thing, filming as much as we can, posting whatever we can, and trying to get you know, every detail back to the number one fan base in the country, in the world, Louisiana State University's fans, the people who care about everything LSU. And baby, thank you so much for giving us some support, some love, um, even when maybe we didn't deserve it, even when maybe I you guys are the best. That's all I can say. Go Tigers, baby. We'll be returning with a running backs room in focus show coming up in the next 24 hours as well. A few profiles. We're going to be hard at work throughout the night. I'm cranking this stuff out for you. And, you know, I just, I feel really blessed and privileged to even have a platform to even talk to you guys and that anyone even cares about our opinion. I sometimes feel like it's nuts even just pinching myself that we have over 1,000 subscribers. And a lot of people would laugh at that and be like, "Oh, I've got 40,000, you fool!" Haha. Like okay, um, it's still big to us. Every 1,200 of you guys who've backed us, it's been incredible. There's been a lot of different people who've backed us, and hopefully there's people who feel like we've backed them. We try to back as many people as we possibly can, publicly, privately. We try and do it both ways because just doing it all privately doesn't really mean shit, in my opinion. I always like to kind of publicly be like, hey, this is where I stand, and I'm ready to put my chips over on their side. You know what I'm saying? And so very excited for the future. Very excited for what we've got coming in down the pipeline for you at LSUOdyssey.com and just the future of this team, man. It's exciting. Anyway, everybody, have a good rest of your night. Good rest of your day, I should say. Hopefully, you have a good day at work. Hopefully, you kick some ass. Hopefully, this got you through at least an hour of your first part of your workday. And thank you very much, everybody. Go Tigers, baby. This has been LSU Odyssey Live, productions of Uninterrupted Media. Visit and subscribe at LSUOdyssey.com. So subscribe. Follow us on X or Twitter at LSU Odyssey. Follow us on Instagram at LSU Odyssey Lawn. This was LSU Odyssey Live. Thank you for watching LSU Odyssey Live. Visit the central hub of LSU Odyssey at LSUOdyssey.com, home of LSU Odyssey, where your Odyssey becomes LSU Odysseyized.